The following podcast contains subject matter that may be unsuitable for more sensible viewers. Views expressed here do not reflect that of any community that you would want to be a part of. Listener discretion is mandatory. Mama, what does trans mean?
No!
Lars Ulrich is queer representation.
Metallica is gay. I'll fight anybody on this.
Metallica is gay culture.
Welcome back to Tranifesto, the show officially classified by the Southern Poverty Law Center as On Thin Ice. I am one of your hosts, Madeline Hops. Today I'm joined by...
Ree Carter, the big farter.
Oh my... No, we can't have that be an official thing for you.
I ate so much pizza today. I may be a cradle to the grave vegan, but I did eat a lot of pizza today, and I'm not feeling too hot about it.
You know what they... no vegan diet, no vegan powers, so hand them over.
Perfect, and we are all...
Milk and eggs, bitch.
And returning as our... I'm going to say... doing better than Amy. Yeah, that's right, Amy. If you're listening to this podcast,
don't do that to me. I don't want to be the middle person here.
Yeah, Devalin. They said I had to say it. They slipped me a note here. Anyways, the other person.
I'm Devalin Galloway, back for third time in a row. Again. Third time's the charm, they say.
I believe you now qualify for the Tranifesto retirement plan, which is you move to health.
I've gone from friend of the pod to member of the pod.
Next step is pod people.
Yeah, but the official Twitter's still not going to follow you, so that it doesn't count.
Yeah,
the official Twitter does follow me.
Back the heck off. Does it?
Yeah,
really?
Does. Yeah, it does.
Holy shit. Okay, well then.
Well, let me go remedy that.
Perfect. So yes.
No, it's not. We are only following the core crew. You are lying. You are a lying liar.
I got followed by it. Someone unfollowed me. I'm off. I
quit. Are we good? Or is this just going to be the episode us bitching about this?
I mean...
This is homophobic. I'm done.
It's NB-phobic. All right, so welcome to this week's episode. And I'm very excited about this week's episode, actually. I'm excited about a lot of our week's episodes, but this happens to be from a place that is very close to my heart. It's an older episode, but it's one episode of The Simpsons titled Homer's Phobia. This episode was released in season 8. It's episode 15, which is back in 1997. It features John Waters and Homer and the rest of the Simpsons family. And before we get too much into it, Devalin wanted to give a kind of a brief rundown of the episode.
All right. So I just want to note that the beginning of the episode is one of my favorite things ever, where Bart is running Lotto out of the dryer. Because that's like big mood when I was a teenager. I would probably do that. But so Bart breaks the dryer, causes a lot of, like, about $900 of damage, and they can't afford it.
Yeah, I also like how they just kind of like gloss that over too. It's never examined in the episode again.
Every single, I don't know if you haven't noticed this, but every single Simpsons episode does that. The setup has absolutely nothing to do with the plot. Like Act 1 is a completely like, not even the Act 1, like the intro has absolutely nothing to do with the plot of the rest of the show. That's just what Simpsons does. It's just a formula.
Wait. I didn't talk about the couch gag.
Oh,
I
yeah,
love it. It's just filled with nostalgic rage where everything is loading too slow and you want to go out, but it's too late because AOL doesn't want to listen to you.
Yeah, and even when you hit cancel, you just can't. It just gives you that error message, that blum, blum, blum.
I'm sorry. You cannot do that.
What voice was that? That sounded like a more self-aware speak and spell. Hello, Devalin.
There.
Now
I've officially gone mad onto the pod, and I'm happy now. I said I wouldn't do it, but I did it anyway.
Now spell cat. See, I did.
Hello, and welcome to... I can't do it for long. Please become a member of the pod. Subscribe. 420. John Madden. Anyway, so Bart screws up the wash machine and they need to sell, well, they try to use their retirement fund, but it falls through the earth, so then they need to sell their...
Mads, are you taking a bong rip?
No. I'm just gonna edit that out later.
This is a good start.
Like, I'm not clear. Many great podcasters take bong rips mid pod. I mean,
just in the background of like my synopsis, like.
I was gonna edit it out later.
Madeline Hobbs is well on her way to being the Joe Rogan of queer podcasting.
We need to talk about
minus the libertarianness, mostly just getting high. Well,
we lured you in with the Simpsons.
Have you ever done DMT? No, shut up. It's a DMT podcast now.
Please tell me about all your racist opinions, and I'll just sit here and nod.
We lured you into the Simpsons, but really I want to talk to you about sacred geometry.
Please keep going with the synopsis. I have no exit.
Oh, God, okay. Their retirement fund falls through the earth, so they need to sell Marge's grandmother's Civil War figurine, which is just hilarious.
Yeah, there's that point, too, when they're at the fucking cash register. What was it they said? Fucking...
Please don't think this is us sponsoring, or like...
Yeah, please don't think our ownership of this endorses slavery.
We skip, though. So they go to this collectible store.
Yes.
And they're browsing stuff around. Pogo Stilts is the best thing.
They're banned in 48 states.
Also, they took a dig at centrists back in, so...
Sorry, I got excited.
Oh, no, that's okay. No, I was just saying, like, loved it. So it was basically Principal Skinner is in, like, some unaffiliated shop.
No, it was like, all these old election stickers are so partisan.
Oh, yeah!
You just lost a customer.
Oh, fuck. It was so good.
And so they go to the collectible store, and working at the collectible store is a man named John, who is talking to Marge about the Civil War figurine and what it's worth. Civil War figurine turns out to be a booze bottle, and Homer starts learning about, what's it called?
Camp.
Camp, that's what it's called. Teaches Homer about camp, and then invites John back to the house to look at all their campy shit at home. And that's where like it segues to them getting ready, and I lost my train of thought, hold on.
Just say you're getting a second-hand high from me.
Honestly, probably. Hey, an alarm.
Sorry, that was just a phone call. I don't know what it was.
Caldwell's place said 911.
Why is 911 calling me?
You're the boss now. I don't know why I said that.
You're the boss of 911.
It's like, congratulations, you're a paramedic.
This is your problem now. You deal with this. We quit.
I'm joking.
So John comes over and starts pointing out all their like kitschy, campy stuff at their home, like the corn...
Curtains.
Curtains. Oh my God, where's my brain? Curtains. That's a thing people have. Curtains.
Rich people.
True. Actually, I have curtains.
What? Wait, no rich people in the pod. Eat the rich, yo.
Get out of your ivory tower.
Yeah, it's either pin a towel to a window or get the fuck out.
So he's taking photos of all the campy stuff. They're talking. Homer's starting to develop a relationship with John. Thinks he's really cool. They like dance to a song together. It's kind of cute. I like it. And then it goes to the next day, and Homer's talking about how great John is, and Marge is trying to hint very, very hard about how festive he is, which is the best descriptor.
Well, it's not even that she's outing him. It's just because Homer's like, we should hang out with him and his wife, and she's like, I don't think he has a wife. Says
also,
Marge knows you don't out a brother.
She kind of did though, because she straight up told.
Well, I mean, and completely unsolicited.
Fair. Anyway, so best joke in the episode, in my opinion, is like he prefers the company of men. Who doesn't?
Oh, it's so good.
So I just love it so much. And then Homer freaks out, denies everything he said, gets gay panic TM, thinks that John is bad for his family, just generally freaks out and says hateful, non-founded nonsense. While Marge, who I'm like surprising episode is just like super, like, you're being ignorant, you don't know what you're talking about, which I think is actually really cool that Marge is just like so down and doesn't question it the entire episode.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of a similar to the Rocko's Modern Life thing, where, you know, like it was the husband who was like all, oh, I hate like change and stuff, and the mom was like, oh, I'm just stoked to have somebody to go shoe shopping with.
It seems to be like a trope. I mean, it's not a bad one. I don't necessarily have a problem with it, but I would say it's starting to become a trope.
And plus, that'd be something I'd love to see flipped in something, because I mean, like, for the next little while, we're gonna keep
it was
getting
flipped. Brooklyn Nine-Nine. When what's her face? Not Roseanne. What the fuck is her name?
Roseanne.
Not Rosa.
Rosa. Yeah, Roseanne. Rosa. Yeah, when Rosa comes out as bi to her parents, and I mean, they both are kind of weird about it at first, but the dad ends up being the one that's accepting it and the one that says, you know, Mom needs more time. So I guess
gotcha.
Yeah, maybe it's not explored as much, but yeah, no. Either way, I'm kind of fine with this trope.
It's definitely a trope at this point.
Like, especially like as long we're gonna keep seeing it, so it could be interesting to see how it can, like, rather than just keep running the same joke over and over again, like, kind of refine it and explore it, because it does reflect something like genuine.
Also, another good joke at this part is where John, like, smacks Marge in the arm for saying something funny and clever, and she smacks him back, and Bart punches Homer in the stomach, and then Homer starts choking Bart, and Bart's just like, Dad, we have company. And he's like, oh, sorry, John, give me a few minutes, and continues choking him. Very good. Homer's freaking out. Bart thinks John is really cool, starts imitating his, like, mannerisms and, like, getting interested in camp and all that, and then Homer starts thinking that Bart is being turned gay by being around John.
Which, to be fair, though, John Waters does have that effect on people.
I wish I knew more about John Waters.
He's a beautiful man. We'll get into him in a bit.
Good mustache.
Solid mustache.
So then, like, the next day, Bart's wearing, like, a Hawaiian shirt, and Homer's like, oh my god, where'd you get that shirt? What are you doing? Just seeing Bart being more effeminate, and, like, even giving Marge, like, why are you being so effeminate around the boy? And he keeps having dreams about Bart being gay, or, like, his son not being into girls, which turns into him taking to Bart to, like, sit in front of a sign in the middle of the highway that has two scantily clad women trying to sell cigarettes.
Oh, it's a smoking billboard with a bunch of naked women, and he just makes them sit in front of it for 2 hours, and then comes back and is like, hey, how do you feel now? He's like, I kind of want a cigarette.
Okay, let's get you a pack.
Which then ends, it's like, what's your brand? Anything slim. He's like, it didn't work.
Also, I just want to, like, like, the way that you said that, like, I wanted, like, to point out that the joke of calling something gay can easily be rebranded as, like, saying something is queer culture is the PC version of calling something gay.
Yeah, I would say that. I would say it's an updated term. Yeah,
it's like slim cigarettes. Slim cigarettes are gay. Oh, no. Slim cigarettes are queer culture. Yeah. It's technically the same thing, but
I mean, we'll get into this in a bit. But the funny thing about the humor in this with the queer humor in this one is it's almost like, it's weird. It's like the Simpsons were throwing punches as, like, queer people who seemed well versed in the culture enough to throw, like, inside jokes but make them universally applicable. Which is, we'll get to in a second, but there's the name bit down the line.
Yes, he takes Bart next to a steel mill, saying it's like the epitome of manliness and doing masculine things, because, you know, mills, I guess.
Everybody knows this scene. It's legendary.
And the entire steel mill turns out to be a gay steel mill, and turns into a gay disco on their breaks, which is just hands down my favorite joke from one of these cartoons ever.
Just we work hard, we play hard. Bum, 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 bum.
I love it so much.
May I say, the gay steel mill is the Marxist dream.
Yeah, I was just going to, damn it. I was going to say, you want to see socialism at work? Go look at your local gay steel mill. That is socialism.
Yeah, so having union mandated dance breaks, like,
please.
Just imagine the gruffest guys you can, just in the steel mill, just like as hetero as they can be, and just like, oh, okay, oh, let's dance. They just all start breaking out YMCA and shit, while just trying to be as masculine as they can.
Also, can I say, labor unionists and, Marxists in the left please, adopt the phrase, work hard, play hard as, as a rallying cry?
Isn't that what we all want at the end of the day?
Yeah.
We work hard just to play hard later, you know?
And I'm willing to work hard so everybody can play hard.
Exactly. NDP,
That's the
new
dream.
slogan. Yeah.
I was going to say, I reference the steel mill scene almost every day. Whenever someone's like, you're being gay, I always just go, be nice.
You're all, what was it? He's like, you're all queer. Oh, be nice.
I think it was like, you're all sick.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Or the scene of the guy carrying the bag of lava, or the cauldron filled with lava looking stuff, just hot stuff coming through.
Which, I mean, the fact is, they all seem to be incredibly competent steel workers and seem to be incredibly good at their jobs.
Yeah, that's the main takeaway. Gay men, great steel workers.
There's an ember in your hair. Get it.
Hey, that's dangerous. It's good to have somebody looking out for you.
Right?
Exactly.
He cared
Pro
about his
job.
coworker so much that he slapped his helmet off his head to get it.
Yep,
so
and
good.
They danced around in short shorts a moment later.
Love it. Anyway, so Homer's freaking out because everything is gay and is talking to his friends at the bar at Moe's, and they're talking about how everything is gay and there's not a lot of masculine and change is bad. You know, the whole rhetoric that everyone's heard a million times. And then so they decide to take Bart hunting because hunting is also apparently the epitome of masculinity, and murdering poor animals is manly, apparently.
There's a really good line I like in it, which, I mean, just because I think we're kind of getting into stuff as we're going through the synopsis, but there's a really good line where Homer's talking to Moe, and I was like, oh, how did I let this happen? And Moe's like, well, time was you could send your kids to war. Nothing straightens someone up like killing a man, but now there's no wars, which is interesting because I remember reading, I've read a lot of accounts of what I call the old model trans experience, where a lot of trans people from, the 90s and earlier, the thing that you would do is join the army because you get the fear of God beaten into you once you displayed femininity, then you join the army, and a lot of these guys just go and either there's probably a ton of queer people who just died in the army because that was to try to masculinize themselves.
That's
and
terrible.
Then you get PTSD, and then you come home, and then you start a family, and then drink yourself to death. And if none of those things kill you, then that's where all of a lot of they just hit that age where their body stops producing testosterone, and then they transition.
Yeah,
that
but
is really depressing.
Yeah, it is depressing.
Yeah. Blue lives matter, though. Okay, just so we're clear. All right.
I mean, hey, I'm sure a lot of them became police officers too.
Yeah, and 40% of police officers went on to beat their wives.
40% of police officers get reported for beating their wives.
Right. No, exactly.
I've tried looking up that statistic, and it's the statistic is flimsy, but it's not unsubstantiated. So it's fun. It is fun to throw around. And
all right, we're steering too far left.
Yeah.
See, I was gonna make a lighter joke and say everything I've read about World War I, I'm pretty sure everyone was sad and gay, but okay.
Well, I mean, that's why Hitler did what he did, is because the Weimar Republic was just too sad and too gay, and somebody had to stop it.
Hitler was gay. No, please, I'm gonna edit that out. I don't want some fucking
Can you just put a big giant beep on that one? Just
Well, I mean, that's the thing. It's just because, Hitler. Here's my book about how Hitler was a closeted homosexual, and that excuses everything he ever did.
How did we end up here?
It was
just a line by Moe.
He was just acting out, okay? We all do things when we're closeted.
It was only a Moe.
One moment in time.
Oh,
okay.
God.
Okay.
All right. Wrap it up.
Keep the wheels going.
Okay.
The wheel's spinning. The hamster's dead.
the hamster, like that one in that video that's like stuck in it and its friend is still running, and you're like, please stop, I want off. I want off Mr. Bones' wild ride. Anyway, so Homer goes and gets some hunting gear, marches into the antique shop where his family is hanging out with John, and like demands to take Bart hunting. And they all kind of make fun of him, but like he takes Bart hunting. But it's also known that there's been no deer in Springfield since they changed their national park to AstroTurf. So that's pretty funny. But so they take Bart hunting, and they just say a bunch of like masculine things, and they also say that if Bart turns gay, they always got Lisa. Just like a whole bunch of those
Just make
classic
Lisa
tropes.
man. It's like, nah, she's a vegetarian.
So they go and sit for like an entire like day and night till Bart falls asleep, and they don't see any deer or anything. So then they take Bart, like they're just really pushing that Bart has to shoot something to like affirm his masculinity. So they take him to a like Christmas farm where they have a bunch of reindeer, try to force Bart to like shoot a reindeer, and Bart almost in tears says he doesn't want to, and then the reindeer start fighting amongst themselves because it's apparently mating season. Homer picks up Bart to keep him away from the reindeer so he's not hurt, gets just rammed the hell out of by a deer, and
But he also like picks up Bart and is like, no, I actually like, I love you, like I have to protect you. Like, does they actually like, you know, talks about his feelings.
yeah, he's actually being a good father in this scene for the first time in this episode. Hot take. And then so Homer's just getting rammed by deer left, right, and center, and getting pretty injured. And then they are saved by John with his Japanese Santa robot because reindeer hate their cruel master Santa. And Homer then, like, they're all saved, and they're like talking about how Moe and Barney are like, I can't believe we were saved by a sissy. And Homer defends John by saying, don't call him a sissy, call him a queer. That's the word they like. And then he first called him a fruit, which is funny. I like fruit. I like fruit. That's a good one.
That is a good one. Let's say, can we reclaim fruit next?
It's retro enough. We could get there.
So yeah, they're saved by John. Homer in the car ride like home admits that he's fine with Bart living his life however he wants to be, although he said it might be the concussion speaking, so it's kind of a neutral point. But then Bart's confused by this, and Lisa tells him he thinks you're gay, and then Bart exclaims he thinks I'm gay, zooms into his face with everybody dance now, end.
Art. It's pure, beautiful art.
Also, I want to make sure that we mention the last joke where, like, as they're driving away, the last thing is just a car that just says "dedicated to the steelworkers of America." Keep chasing that rainbow. Which, very, very proletariat, very pro worker. Just, I support it.
Oh fuck. Oh god, it's so good. So I mean, like, our next point was going to be discussing what we thought of the episode outside of the gayness.
I think we covered it.
I think we did. I mean, it's basically like, it's like airplane level funny where there's just so many jokes jokes per line. Mm-hmm. And it was just, there's so many to keep up on.
Which, I mean, it's definitely what it excels at. And, like, that's one of my favorite, like, types of comedy. Like, especially if you ever watch, like, older stuff, like old, like, Mel Brooks movies and stuff like that, where it is like joke, and even if like one didn't land, you don't even notice because like there's an even better joke that just followed it up.
Exactly.
I don't think there's a joke in this episode that doesn't land. Every scene is literally hilarious.
Yeah, I think probably if what I kind of want to touch on is the way that this ties into some of like the broad, like the tropes that this uses and how it ties into like gay panic and gay stereotype, because I think that like John is probably like, he's definitely a specific stereotype that's like we've seen a ton of times, but I think he's probably like the best version of that, because like he's not over sexualized. He's not like, you know, because that's one of the things is a lot of times when they're like these kind of campy gays, they just become super duper sexual. He's just like super witty and super funny and super chill and super smart and like is just a little bit weird.
Yeah, well, that's also like, that is John Waters.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and just so like, because there might be some listeners who don't know who John Waters is. John Waters is an American film director, screenwriter, author, actor, stand-up comedian, journalist, lots of different stuff. He's done movies like Pink Flamingos, Hair. If you've seen Hair, that's him as well.
You mean Hairspray?
Oh, Hairspray, sorry, yeah.
And he's most known for his starring role in the masterwork film Seed of Chucky.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, and he's also known as the only man in the world who is allowed to have a pencil-thin mustache.
Facts.
Speak for yourself.
Wow, okay.
Wait. Dorian Electra. Okay, go on.
God damn it. I was just going to say, in case we're wondering how gay John Waters is, he graduated from the Boys Latin School of Maryland.
This isn't your normal gay. This is advanced gay.
All right, perfect. So yeah, John Waters, he's made a bunch of stuff. A lot of his stuff has been fairly queer focused and like fringe stuff. He's actually pretty good, but John Waters himself, and I think he basically just plays himself in this episode, is flamboyant and effeminate. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. There are people that are
not even that effeminate. He's just like campy. He's just like, you know, a little bit flighty. It's not even like explicitly effeminate.
Exactly, especially for like, and that's the other thing too. We should probably talk on is the time difference between representation now and then. But you're right. Even for the '90s, it was for people that may watch this. Who have not seen Simpsons. I grew up with Simpsons. It was like the one TV show I was allowed to watch every night for some inexplicable reason. So I watched that all my childhood growing up. And I remember this episode, and I was worried that I was going to go back to it and the representation was going to suck. Just like, you know, because I remember like Ace Ventura as a kid being kind of funny, and then I watched it again, I'm like, holy crap, no.
I think that one disappointed me the most.
Yeah, it did break the heart a little bit. So when this one came up, like I was excited because I didn't remember anything bad, but I'm like, oh man, maybe it's like as a kid, maybe I just like glossed over some stuff. But like, no, it was really awesome. And like, I think there's some things that if they had done now, people would be a little more critical towards. Again, like, you know, John Waters being, like you said, not overly effeminate, but he was still somewhat effeminate. And I think for some people nowadays, they could be like, well, they're leaning into it a little too hard. But I still think it held up well because there was never, there was tons of double entendres in the episode with the writing, but it was never at the expense of John Waters' character. Even for like its place in time, this is good when it was made, it was great when it was made, it was good now.
And also, like, if we want to compare this to like other shows that are in like the lineage of The Simpsons, which would be like, you know, your South Parks, Family Guys, stuff like that, especially ones that became more popular like after 1997, like if you're using this as a benchmark, things got worse before they got better.
Oh, yeah. Much worse.
Like,
nothing about anything I saw in
this,
Family
this
Guy.
handled it with like, it was obviously like, you know, I don't know if like you could have another show that could do this right now where you wouldn't be like, well, you know better, you shouldn't do this. Like, this is very good based like for the time. Like, it's still good, but it's also good for the time. And
exactly.
Like, you know, shit like, and I mean, obviously, I feel like probably should do some like fucking Family Guy and South Park episodes because that's what we decided our fucking job is.
Watching that is a hate crime.
Yeah. But, like, this handled it just so, like, you know, it handled it well and handled it a lot better than a lot of subsequent things were. And even, like, there's one actually kind of surprisingly mature line that I want to actually go back to is the one where, like, Homer is complaining to Marge, is like, oh, he's like this and he's like this and, like, or, like, what is it? It's like, you know, I like my gays, like, he almost says that like John doesn't like live up to his expectations of what a queer person's supposed to be enough, and it's like I like my gays fruity and like ridiculous, and he's just too like charming.
Yeah.
And also, but then Marge has like a good line where she's like, you don't even know what you're worried about anymore. Like, she points out that he's like making things up because he thinks that he's supposed to be homophobic, and also it also touches on this whole thing about how, you know, this isn't just queer stuff, but this is also like, especially I know this also ties into like kind of ableist issues and like disabled issues, but like this whole idea that if your kid isn't exactly like you have failed as a parent, and I think that that's like the core of Homer's anxiety in this.
Well, exactly, and I mean, like, I saw this dynamic a lot, especially in the '90s, which was obviously existed before, but like I was just around consciously during that time, and it was just like the idea that, and I guess it still exists today, which is the idea is like, the son is representative of the father, and it's a very toxic form of masculinity, and you absolutely said it, like, you're like, as a parent, your job is not to like mold your kid will mold themselves. You're there as like kind of a conscience, and you should teach them like important stuff, please, thank yous. But like, even at the end of the episode where Homer goes, I love you no matter who you are, and like, even if we could just take that line at its own, because around it were some jokes and stuff like that, which were all still good, because the joke right afterwards was Lucy going to Bart, he thinks you're gay. But there's that moment where Homer genuinely has that moment where he realizes like those are people, and against what his belief was. I even like the idea that during like the more flamboyant or the top moments, like the gay steel mill, because the argument could be made for the gay steel mill part that like, oh, that's a very stereotype, tropey, gay guys, hypersexualized, very effeminate in that episode, but. If you notice, like, those moments only really existed with Homer. So it was almost like how Homer thought the world should be, but by the end of it, because of how ridiculous the episode ended, he realized, or was it John Waters' character? It's like, well, Homer, I'm glad all it took was me saving your life to convince you that I was a person. Now, if only every other gay person in the world could do that, I think we'll be fine.
Which, I mean, like, that's, like, definitely a thing, especially with, like, whenever, like, sort of the media depiction of queer people is that, it's always like, hey, look at this cool thing that a queer person did. Oh, this queer person joined the army and killed a bunch of brown people, and this is why we should accept gays in the military. Like, fucking, like, we have to earn our place in the world in a way that like other demographics don't.
Did you do a normal thing while you're queer?
Exactly.
Look at you go.
Yeah.
Look at
You're
you.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, it's the thing that frustrates me because, like, as much as, like, the reason gay marriage, from at least the timeline I saw, one of the big reasons was its success, but also its frustrating success, was, like, it started becoming less about, like, the gays over there. And it's like, well, your son's gay or your cousin's gay, and do you love these people? Like, it had to mean something to somebody. This is often, like, one of those arguments I hear with toxic masculinity and the idea of just, like, caring for a woman only comes to, like, guys who, like, had a daughter or had a sister or something like that.
It's like, I can't be feminist, I have a wife, or I can't be sexist, I have a wife, I have a daughter, which is
exactly.
Like... that's not how that fucking works.
Yeah. So no, ultimately, I think Homer did, like, it was a good, and it was the start of a journey too. Like, the episode was at its it had its place in time for the conversation that was happening. But just on the note of and a perfect segue to places in time. The parallels in the gay panic message, which I kind of want to examine a little bit more in detail, we've kind of touched on it a few times, but the fact that, like, even though it was way more overt back then, I like to make the argument that the conversation in the 90s about, like, oh, hanging around gay people will turn your kids gay is the same argument that exists now for, like, kids that are transgender, and the whole idea of just, like, parents doing, well, it's just because of, like, what was that line in the fucking UK that they're saying, like, it's rapid onset gender dysphoria. Like, it's just, but so now instead of saying, like, oh, hanging out with trans people make you trans, because they know that conversation's stupid, they're now saying, no, it's rapid onset gender dysphoria. Or, what? or fucking social media, and that's why there's more kids. Like, there's been a couple of these TERPs articles that have referenced that. And it's funny that, like, the conversation and the argument is still the same. We've just changed the phrasing of it.
And just going back to the whole, like, the idea of, if your child is, like, in this one, it's like, my son is gay means I'm a failure as a parent. Like, the thing is, like, that is a very universal thing. And it's like the whole idea is that, like, okay, now homosexuality is much more normal. And, a lot of people who might be like, oh, I would be okay if my kid is gay. I wouldn't be okay if they were trans. Or, like, I personally, like, from what I've seen, I think that this, like, fits into, like, the anti-vaxxer movement, to take kind of a hard left turn. But they, like, this whole idea where, like, a lot of these people who, like, they'd be fine if their kids were trans, they'd be fine if their kids are gay. But if their kids are autistic, it means that they must have failed as a parent, which is kind of where this anti-vaxxing thing comes from. Which means that we're making things acceptable, but we're not, like, we've never addressed, like, the core root of why people, like, jump to these conclusions and, like, make these, like, make these assumptions in the first place.
Yeah, it's. I would say that I'm going to take a shot here and say, look, if you're wondering, the only time you fail as a parent is when your child no longer sees you as a source of strength, of inspiration, or as like a weakness. Because, like we said, your kid being gay is not failure on your part. You stopping to be a parent because of that is failure. And, it's a weird bar. And I can speak from experience when I say, like, parents, struggle with the idea of, like, are you doing enough? And are you being a good parent? Are you doing the right thing? But, like, that's all you have to do at the end of the day. And all any of us can do is just try to be there as best we can and understand their language.
Yeah, like, because initially it's like Marge is like, when Homer's like, they started like, oh, what if the kid turns gay? And like, Marge is like, oh, there's nothing wrong with that. And besides, if there's anything wrong with Bart, it's because you're not spending enough time with him, which kind of ties into the thing. Because even in the latter half, even if it's not even like an immediate like thing where it's like, oh, my kid is doing this, even if it's like way in the future and your kid's an adult and then does something that like weirds you out, then like as a parent you might go, oh God, are they going through this hardship because I failed, because I didn't spend enough time with them, or because I didn't do this, this, and this, and this?
I think you had a really good point with the anti-vaxxer movement. I would also even argue like the ADHD diagnoses back in the 90s was very much just
I definitely was like right in the middle of that. Like I didn't get I didn't get my I mean that's kind of a toss-up, because they were like throwing a lot of drugs that like fucked a lot of people up around at the time. So like, but also I definitely have attention deficit that didn't get treated at the time. So it's kind of a toss-up on that one.
The parallels in terms of the gay panic back then has evolved. It's funny. It's just like the people who are against things like queer progressiveness often have now adopted the language of science, because they realize the science or the language of emotion wasn't selling too much. Because it's very hard to emotionally paint people as villains when all you realize at the end of the day is that they're people just doing the exact same thing that you or someone you know might be doing. But like, again, the same, I think in the next 10, 20 years, we'll look back at the whole like transgender children in the same view as we kind of look back now at the whole idea of turning your kids gay by being around gay people. Which, as I say this, I also acknowledge full well that there are a lot of people today that still think like showing kids gay people makes the kids gay. And you could see that in things like, every time someone's like, why are they trying to shove their SJW agenda down my throat? And all of us have to just giggle at the idea of shoving something down their throat.
Are we not doing phrasing anymore?
No, it's apparently done. Perfect. Yeah, again, all of this, very good points in terms of like the parallels for what existed before to now. Focus on the Family, for anybody who remembers that company, has existed back then, it exists now, and they're still pushing the same agenda. All terrible, awful things. But the Simpsons, as they did back then, managed to push the envelope at every turn. Perfect. But right now we're just going to get to the verdict, as we do at the end of these episodes. And how do we feel about this representation?
It's good, and I like John Waters, and it has good jokes, and The Simpsons is good.
I grew up with The Simpsons. Like I said, it was my one show I was allowed to watch. And fucking this episode, I remember watching as a kid. It was like, it's funny. Actually, now that I say that, I realized as a kid I didn't even register John Waters' character was gay. That was weird. I was an idiot as a kid. No, I thought like the humor was well done. I thought they, especially for the 90s and the conversations that we're having at the time, they were done really well. I honestly don't have a lot of bad things to say. I could see someone who's maybe younger watching this episode for the first time maybe having some problems with it, but I would encourage that anybody, as they critique things and are trying to be media conscious, keep in mind the time frame in which things were made. It doesn't excuse their behavior. Obviously, there's lots of examples where that's not the case, but it does help you understand what was going on at the time.
I think it's fantastic. Even as a kid, it was one of my favorite episodes, which might explain some things, but honestly...
Jeez, I hope this doesn't awake anything in me.
My family hated The Simpsons and didn't want me watching it, and I stayed up late at night watching it in my room, and I've always loved it, and this episode is definitely in my top 5. Love it. So good.
So fucking good. All right, perfect. Well, again, it was an absolute joy to do this episode with you folks. I fucking love this I love this episode so much. I love The Simpsons. This probably is up there with fucking Cape Fear as one of my favorite episodes of all time. Cape Fear being the one that gave us the infamous rake sketch and the houseboat and the Mr. Thompson bit. Oh, it was, again, I will stop, but I love Simpsons so much. Anyways, thank you all again for joining us this week. I'm at rabbit_is_dead on Twitter and Twitch. I am at a job site this weekend, so I don't know how around I'll be, but other than that, I am just doing a bunch of Destiny 2 raids. I was in one for 6 hours the other day, and I now know what death feels like. And so I will hopefully be going on to, once my little one is back in school, I'll be going back to French lessons and, I don't know, maybe getting a part-time job for funsies. But I'm getting my hand tattoo soon, which is awesome.
Yay! I'm Reed Carter at RHICARTER. I used to do productive, interesting things, but then I got Grand Theft Auto 5, which is a surprisingly, peaceful game. It's just incredibly pleasant to be able to just listen to, curated hip-hop and ignore traffic laws.
We call that Surrey, okay?
Yeah, that's Surrey. Yeah. Grand Theft Auto 5's only real issue is that it doesn't have a Punjabi hip hop radio station.
It is the true crime.
Otherwise, then it could be Surrey. Listen, I need my I gotta have my sad Punjabi jams.
I was gonna say, you gotta just turn that off. I'll lend you my mixtape of sad Punjabi jams. This is a true fact. I found it on the sidewalk next to my house.
Holy fuck!
Which is the most Vancouver thing.
Oh. I listened to it and it's fantastic. I love it so much.
Fucking A.
And I'm Devalin Galloway at Devalin Galloway. I'm releasing .com, .net, NFL.com.
.xxx.
.org.
.uk.
.gov. I'm releasing my first compilation tape on my record label Placeholder Records, which you can follow at Placeholder Records on Twitter. I have 2 shows coming up in Vancouver, one being on September 20th at the Matador, and one being on October 12th at a venue to be announced. Just releasing a lot of records and playing Grand Theft Auto 5 too.
Oh, they released a sequel to Grand Theft Auto 5?
Oh. I hate you.
So this will be the last episode with Ree as one of our hosts. Make sure everyone to say goodbye to her.
It's all me now, baby.
I think Amy is coming back for the next normal episode, except instead of Devalin leaving, it's me. So
yeah, exactly. Ree suffered an unfortunate accident as she fell onto some bullets repeatedly. So,
see, the goal is to be the first podcast that has none of its original members.
Yeah, or the goal is to become the first true crime podcast that produced its own true crime. So we have to figure out who murdered you and to get me off death row.
Have you spread the good word of We Are All Amy?
Amy, please come back.
And I
Anyways, yes, we're gonna be off. Hopefully our schedule will get back to normal posting shortly. This last month we wanted to take it easy. So yes, we should be getting back to more, at least 3 episodes a month. Try, if not 4. So yes, thank you all again, and we love you all. And we will see you, I guess, all again in hopefully a week. And with Amy, thank you again, Devalin, for joining us on the show. I love you all. Okay, bye!